In this section, we're going to have a quick overview and tour of Sonar's user interface and a closer look at the track view. This is the view you should have when you initially open Sonar. We can see the quick start dialog. From here we can open a project, select a recently opened project, create a new project, get help and tips from online videos, assuming you have an internet connection, or open the help file. If you don't wish to see this at startup, then deselect the Show this at startup checkbox. You can always choose to re-show it again by selecting the Quick Start dialog option from the Help menu and rechecking this box. For now I'm going to click on Close and have a look at the main layout. How many tracks you see here will depend on your normal template and whether you have the option to open that template on startup checked or not. At the very top, we have the Standards window menu. Here we can open and save files, select various tools and commands and options that affect the program globally. Sonar also has view-dependent menus for commands and options that are only relevant to that view. We'll look at the global menu commands and options as we need them, but one new feature worth a mention for X2 is the full screen mode. This will hide the standard Windows title bar. Set and deselect by selecting Full Screen from the Windows menu. Beneath the main menu is the control bar. This is used to display various tool modules and can be hidden and shown by pressing C or selecting Hide Control Bar from the context menu, accessed by right-clicking over a grey area of the control bar. Pressing C brings it back. It can be docked at the bottom or floated, and this can be chosen from the right-click menu. We can also choose which modules are displayed, and we'll look at those in more detail later. In the centre of the main view we have the track view. This is the only view that cannot be closed or minimised while still be able to work on a project. It's where we manage our project from, and we'll look at this in greater detail later. To the right of this is the browser, where we can easily find and import various elements into our project. And like most elements of X2, it can be docked, floated and hidden. Hide and re-show it by pressing B. We'll look at the browser in more detail shortly. Towards the bottom, we have the multi-dock, which by default has a console view open in it. This is an area of the program where we can open multiple views and call them up very quickly as we need them. Once again, it can be docked, floated and hidden. It can be maximised and restored by pressing Shift D, and shown or hidden by pressing D. Again, we'll look at this in more detail later. To the left we have the inspector for easy access to controls for the selected clips or tracks, and we can also control the Pro channel from here. This can also be docked, floated or hidden. Press I to hide it, and then recall it. We'll see more of this as I work through the various video sections. As I've already mentioned, all of these various view elements can be moved, resized, floated, hidden or shown, and generally customised to suit your way of working. This whole view on a project is collectively known as a screen set, and there are 9 other screen set slots available. All of them be set up how you want them and be called up at the press of a button. This is a very powerful feature of Sonar, and we'll see ways that they can be helpful later. Let's take a closer look at the track view. This is the main view from where a project is managed. You'll see I've added a few more tracks for demonstration purposes. For now, we'll hide the inspector by pressing I, the browser by pressing B, the multi-dock by pressing D, and the control bar by pressing C. This leaves us with the main track view. As I mentioned earlier, this view cannot be closed, and if you do, it will close the project. It consists of 5 panes in its own menu. The track panes are all resizable. We'll look at the menu first, and this contains menu options and tools which are unique to the track view. From the View menu, we can control what is displayed here. The Options menu allows us to set various options behaviour choices that are specific to the track view and the way which we edit projects. The Tracks menu allows us to select various choices that are unique to tracks. The Clips menu for any selected clips. The MIDI menu controls how MIDI data are viewed within the track view. And the V-Vocal menu is for creating and working with V-Vocal clips. We'll take a closer look at each of these menus as we start to work with projects. We can currently see 2 of the 5 panes I mentioned. They are the track pane and the clips pane. We'll bring the bus pane into view by clicking on the Show Bus Pane icon. The shortcut for that is Shift B. All of these panes can be resized by click-dragging their separator bars and either dragging it left or right, or up or down as required. We use the track pane to display various types of tracks and see and edit the most common track control settings and meters for any visible tracks. The area of a track visible in the track pane is referred to as a track header. To resize a track, we can click-drag on the track divider. We can set the default height for tracks by right-clicking on the in-focus track header and selecting Set as Default Height from the context menu. Any new tracks that are inserted will be set to this height, and Auto Zoom will also initially follow this height. Auto Zoom is enabled from the View menu or by pressing Shift+Z. Once enabled, the in-focus track will automatically have its track height enlarged to your chosen default, while others are minimised. It can be resized, and Auto Zoom will then follow the new height. As you change track focus, the track heights swap, so the in-focus track is always the zoomed track. With this option enabled, individual resizing of other tracks is not possible. It is possible to resize tracks, but all of the tracks are affected when you resize one. The in-focus track will continue to swap height with the other tracks, but they are now at their new heights. For now, I'll disable Auto Zoom so that I can demonstrate a quick way to maximize tracks. This is done by double-clicking on a blank area of the track header. Double-clicking a maximized track will restore it to its last non-minimized height. To minimize a strip, click on the minimize strip icon, which will then change to the restore track height icon, and use this icon to restore the track to its last used height. Note that these options are not available while Auto Zoom is active. The various groups of control graphics on the track headers are known as widgets, and which widgets are displayed is controlled by the Track Display Manager. Presets are available and selectable from the preset selector at the top of the track header. We can quickly switch presets by pressing the Shift key with the left and right arrow keys. The default setting's custom, so you may like to change that to all while learning your way around. That way we'll be able to see all of the widgets. We can create new presets and edit existing ones, and we do this via the Track Control Manager, which can be selected from the Preset Selector drop-down, and we'll look at this in more detail later. We'll also look at the various controls and how to use them in detail as we encounter them throughout the various videos, but we'll do a brief tour here. Their exact positions will vary depending on track header width. At the top we have the MSR buttons to control solo, mute and record status of a track. Next is the edit filter for data type selection. The track straight widgets, volume, pan and gain sliders. And at the bottom the input and output selectors. If there are any send inserts, they will also appear here. To the right we have the effects bin. As I mentioned, widget positions will vary with track header width, so your display may look slightly different. MIDI tracks have similar controls, but also have channel and bank controls, as well as a patch selector. If a track control is not available here and is not hidden by the Track Display Manager settings, then it's available in the inspector, which remembers called up and hidden by pressing I. The currently in focus track is highlighted by shade, and any selected tracks are highlighted by a colour on their number. Remember, if Auto Zoom is enabled, the in focus track will always be the zoomed one. There is a difference between in focus and selected. Only one track can be in focus at a time, but many tracks can be selected. Selected tracks, remember, will have the number highlighted by colour. Note that the currently in focus track is not necessarily part of a selection. Most commands will affect any selected and in focus track, so make sure that's what you want. It's possible to change the default font colour for types of track. That's done from Preferences under the Colour section, called up from Edit, Preferences, or by pressing P. Colour is in the Customization section towards the bottom. Not all of the elements are customizable, but track font colour is. I tend to use different coloured tracks for MIDI, audio and instrument tracks, and a different colour for folders. This can help you identify tracks in a project much quicker. Once you have colours set the way you want them, you can save as a preset or export them, and this way they can be recalled as required. For some colour changes to take effect, you may need to restart the program. Once you're finished, click on OK. The clip pane allows a visual representation of a project along a time ruler. This time ruler is at the top of the clips pane, and its display units can be set by right-clicking on it and selecting time ruler format from the context menu. To the left of the time ruler is the Track View Manager preset drop-down we mentioned earlier, and to the far left we can see the now time. We can change the format of the now time by left-clicking on it, which will step through the various options, or right-clicking and selecting the format from the context menu. In the main clips pane area, we will see audio and MIDI data in the form of clips. Automation envelopes and lanes can be shown here as can take lanes. They are accessed from the various buttons in the track header. Take lanes and automation lanes. We'll be looking at them later. This is also where we select, move, copy and arrange clips throughout the project, and we'll look at how to do this when we move on to working with projects. At the bottom is the bus pane that I mentioned earlier, and as I said, we can show and hide this by using the Hide Show Bus Pane icon or pressing Shift B. By selecting the bus headers, we have similar control over the buses as we did tracks in a track pane. Again, if the control isn't available here, it will be available in the inspector. Remember, if that isn't visible, we call it up by pressing I. One of the other two panes is the Navigator pane and is viewed by selecting it from the Track View menu, or by pressing Alt+N. This view can also be resized by dragging on the divider. This area shows the full project for a quick overview and project navigation. The green rectangle shows the current tracks view display position and can be used to either scroll a project or resized to zoom in on the project. You can click within the navigator, which will set the start of the track view to wherever you click. Control plus clicking will set the now time. This view is duplicated in the navigator view available from the Views menu, or by pressing Alt plus Shift plus 8. This may be helpful if you'd like the navigator floated on a second monitor, for example. We can hide that again by pressing Alt+N. There's also a video pane. It's shown by selecting Video Thumbnails Show Hide option from the Track View menu, or by pressing V. Again, we can drag on its divider to resize it. And this is used to display video thumbnails along the time ruler for working with video. To use it, it's necessary to have video inserted, and we'll be covering working with video later. We'll be looking in much more detail at the track view as we start to use the program.